Hi everyone, my name is Nature Angel. If you are new here, then welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. I love having you all here. So I was really trying to think, what should I do a video on today? And I decided that something that kind of went along with one of my recent videos was miscommunication and how things can be miscommunicated. And I think this actually happens a lot in schools, and especially I'm thinking specifically in meetings. So I'm going to say some things just to kind of help overall to have that good rapport with your teams and with the schools, and to help avoid miscommunication while working. So if that sounds interesting to you, then keep watching. So the first thing that I thought of for how to help avoid miscommunicating, and this might seem a little obvious, but make sure you clearly state what you are trying to say. So what I mean by that is, don't beat around the bush. Don't try to kind of use filler words and lots of pauses and talk around what you're actually trying to say because something may be uncomfortable. That could just lead to confusion and also miscommunication, especially if people are already angry and then you're not saying what you're trying to say, and to them it just seems like you're trying to avoid the subject altogether. So just state what you're trying to say and make sure it's clear and concise and to the point. The second thing that I have to say is make sure that you actively listen to what the other people are trying to say, not just listen to respond. I think there's a lot of people that do just listen to respond. Like in their head, they already are thinking, I'm gonna say X, Y, and Z while the other person's talking. And it's like, no, actually listen. Listen to what they have to say. Listen to what their concerns are. Listen to, even if it's a different opinion than yours, listen to why that's a different opinion. Try to understand where they're coming from and don't just come up with a response, because if you do, then that could definitely lead to miscommunication. That could also probably lead to just unnecessary arguments that may happen because you aren't listening to them and you're not making whoever the other person is feel valid. And I think this should go both ways. It should go in all directions. Everyone in the school, everyone you're talking to help not have miscommunication. A third thing, this is particularly kind of pertaining to meetings, but it could pertain to a couple different topics. So make sure that the parents have what is needed in advance in case if any questions arise. So particularly, I was thinking about the reports. For example, like I know I have my psychological report. I'll put that up in advance before we even have the meeting on the kid. And there's a copy that the parent can get. So I think it's good that if the parents are able to look at that and scan it or read deeply into it, depending on the parent. If there's any questions, they can talk to you in advance instead of not having access to it, coming to the meeting, and they don't know what anyone's talking about. And they also don't have a copy of it. So this is all brand new information that they're just receiving, and they might also not even know what's going on. And then that could lead to miscommunication because they're gonna have a bunch of questions, and some of them might have been able to be avoided and stated more clearly if they had it in advance and could look over that stuff, understood what it meant. The fourth thing, which kind of goes along with what I just said, is that the last one dealt with the parents, and this one deals more with the team. So try to make sure that you are building rapport and relationship with the team members. Make sure you're kind of receptive and welcoming, and that goes for everyone. And when I say the team, I'm thinking the people that you're working closely with. So who I usually really work with on my team, it's the ICC, that's the person who's putting together all of the meetings. It's the social worker, because they're gonna look at the social history stuff. Also the speech, because even though there's not a speech in every meeting, speech is sometimes done. That's the assistant principal or some sort of admin. Sometimes it's the principal, or it might even be a completely different person. So that's just some of the people that are on my team, and there's others, and some come and go, and we have the teachers, the general education teachers that are a part of it. So just everyone that you're going to work closely with. And honestly, it could be everyone in the whole school too. But make sure that with the people you are working closely with, that you guys have an understanding and approachable and receptive, not only to each other, but even people around you. Because if you guys all talk to each other and you know what's going on, and let's say a teacher that's new, doesn't do this process, has a question, we want to make sure that us as the team are being open with them. And we want them to be able to reach out to us and to feel comfortable doing that. So just make sure that you are always being warm and as friendly as you can be. And if you follow those other steps above, that will also help with that. Number 5, this is a really important one. Make sure that everyone knows the job they are doing and also that everything is communicated clearly. So, for example, the job that I do here in Virginia is different than the jobs I was doing when I had my internship in Pennsylvania, because I was doing some of the stuff that the social worker is doing, some of the stuff that the counselor is doing. But here, that's all separated. So make sure everyone knows what is expected of them, not what's expected of them after the fact, like before it all happens. Maybe like the beginning of the school year, you make sure everyone's clear. And if you guys need to update that or have questions about it, maybe even have like a mid-year meeting about it, because that's very important. If not, people aren't going to know exactly what they're doing, and then it might come time to something important or a meeting and everyone's mixed up and confused on what they're supposed to be doing. That's not a good look. That's not good for anyone. And then the other thing is making sure everything's just communicated properly. So for example, I use this example a lot, I think, when let's say you get consent for a kid and the consent is given, let's just say to a teacher. If that teacher keeps that consent and doesn't give it to everyone else, how's everyone else going to know that we are supposed to test and begin evaluating the student? We won't, because we never knew we had the consent. So then the meeting time rolls around and no one has anything that they need. And I've been in situations like that before, and it could have been avoided if it was just all communicated properly to everyone. So that's important. Make sure that everyone that needs to know knows. The 6th thing that I have, I know I usually do 5, but I'm feeling 7 today. So only 2 more. The 6th thing that I have is don't assume that everyone knows what you're talking about. And this is specifically important with parents. It's also very important with other staff because they don't do the job we do. We don't do the job they do. So there's things that are confusing. Like I know when I say my stats in my psychological report, I try to go through what those stats mean. Just like how when the teachers are doing their report and they're talking about the state testing and the scores, I don't know what those test scores mean because I don't work with the state tests. So I think it's nice when they explain what it is, even if it's done every time, because people don't understand whatever that is as much as the person that did it, because we have to remember we're the experts in that. And if we're trying to be the expert in that area and relay the information to people who have no clue, how would you do that? How would you want to know something if you didn't know anything about it? That's how I try to think of it. But for the parents specifically, I was thinking they're coming in and we don't know if they've ever had a psychological thing before. We don't know if they ever had a social history or any of this stuff. So we want to make sure that we are explaining it thoroughly and don't just assume that they know what you mean. Even if they don't say anything, sometimes parents are shy or they don't want to be seen as like dumb or stupid, and they're not, but they think they might come off that way if they ask a question, so they just don't ask anything. So what I like to do is just explain it in very simple terms unless told otherwise. Like I know I've been in meetings with parents before and they've gone through a whole bunch. They've even worked in special education, so they know what the terms mean. So then I could just go about my business like just saying, okay, well this is this and this is this, instead of like going into more detail. So basically, don't assume unless told otherwise. The 7th thing, and I think this is very important too, as school psychologists and just school members in general, we have to remember and make sure that we are aware of the cultural differences that are in our community, that are in each family. And we have to make sure that we respect that and also not take things offensively. For example, and you guys might have heard this before, but in some cultures, eye contact is seen as a bad thing. So if our family is from a culture where eye contact is seen as a bad thing. We don't want to be staring them in the eyes like this. We also don't want to do that to the kids if we're trying to tell them something in the classroom and we're like, look at me, look here, look at my eyes. You don't want to do that because that's going against their cultural norms, and we have to respect that. So definitely keep that in mind. I would say try to figure that out before even doing anything else. Make sure, like, is there a language barrier? Is there cultural differences where they just might not understand that something that we might see as okay is not okay to them, or vice versa, right? So we want to make sure that we are creating a safe space and also respecting everyone in the process. So I know this is a bit of a longer video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. I really liked making it. And if you guys have any questions or comments or concerns, leave them down below. I feel like I'm going to be back in school soon, which is insane to think about because summer just flew by. Like the summertime just whoop, and it always does, but it feels like every year it gets shorter and shorter and faster. But that means that I'll be able to do vlogs again soon. But in the meantime, while I'm doing the sit down videos, let me know if there's anything that you want to see or anything that you want me to change at all. I'm always open to feedback, and I really like hearing it because sometimes I don't even think of the stuff that you guys say, or I just have a whole new perspective based on the things that you all say. So any feedback that I get, I definitely appreciate, and I appreciate you just for watching. So thank you again. And if you have any questions, leave that down below. I'll see you next time, okay? Bye.